Hey friends, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Lindsey.
And we're not your average mamas.
On this podcast, we're here to make you laugh, share our experiences, and provide helpful tidbits that will make your parenting journey just a little bit easier.
So grab your favorite drink, sit back and relax, and let us join you in your multitasking.
Not your average mamas.
A podcast showing you that parenting is anything but ordinary.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
It's gotta be it.
Crazy. There's a what downstairs?
There's a leg.
Daddy long legs.
Naya and Rhea are scared of a baby daddy long legs.
Don't worry, they're nice. Daddy long legs mouse are too small to bite you.
He's dead now.
He's dead?
Oh, no.
That was my friend, Charlotte.
No, he was a mean one.
He was a mean one?
Yeah.
What did he do that was so mean?
She climbed at Naya.
She climbed at Naya?
No, Naya and Rhea are afraid of it climbing up there.
Oh, it will give you a nice little tickle.
All right. Should I do the intro first? So that, because
Welcome to episode 15.
15 of Not Your Average Mamas. I'm Brittany.
I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Marissa.
What? We have a guest today on our podcast, my good friend Marissa. And here's a little information about Marissa. She is a stay-at-home mom and former elementary education teacher. She has 2 children. Mason, her son, is 15 years old, and Lulu, her daughter, is 3. Marissa and her husband, Tony, have been married for 4 years and together for 12. Her son, Mason, goes between 2 households and has recently started dating. So in case you couldn't glean from that, today's episode is about navigating your children and dating and what all that entails. So me and Lindsey aren't quite to that point yet.
No.
And so we needed to get an outside perspective. So
Lucky
welcome,
me.
Marissa. Thanks for being on.
I should say lucky you that you don't have to deal with this yet.
I'm honestly scared, but you seem to be handling it like a pro.
Well, thank you. I try, but yeah, it is honestly this has been the hardest parenting year that he has been in because they're going through all the hormones and then you throw in a relationship on top of that.
Oh my gosh.
To be a kid again.
Everything seems so intense at that age, but
Seriously.
like doesn't matter at all hardly. It matters to them, which is important, but they just don't have that perspective. Like their prefrontal cortex isn't developed yet. They don't
Yes,
know.
like
They don't
I
know.
think he thought he was in love within a week of them being
Oh,
together,
good.
which is so sweet. But
Yeah.
at the same point, you're like, do you know what love is, though? Maybe we should provide a definition.
Merriam-Webster's definitions. All right. Well, how have your guys' weeks been? It's only Tuesday. Has anything happened?
I started working at a different location, so my new job, I'm bouncing between clinics, and it has an urgent care, which adds an extra layer. So I just feel like I was running around with my head chopped off. Everyone that was supposed to be training me yesterday was sick. So there's like a whole crew of people that didn't know what they were doing. And I felt like I knew what I was doing the most. And that was rough. And I was like, I've only been here for 3 weeks.
You're like, we're all
That's
drowning.
a lot. I feel like urgent cares are just chaotic and
So chaotic.
So I would not want to be the person that's only been there 3 weeks and feels like you're most prepared.
Every patient, it's like no one here knows what they're doing.
No. So that's been interesting. I don't remember what else is happening. What about you?
This week I kind of work a lot, and then it was my son's birthday, and then it's almost my daughter's birthday, so I'm in the midst of planning a joint birthday for them this weekend, which you guys are both coming to. She'll be super fun. I'm excited about it. But that's pretty. And then Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
I always like to have a lot of Valentine's Day stuff for the kiddos, so we'll do some crafts tomorrow and make heart-shaped pizzas and stuff, so it'll be fun. How about you, Marissa?
Well, we decided to try to do 2 Super Bowl parties, and I think that was just too much for me.
Yeah.
I, as you know, like I got to the second party after halftime, and I feel like I was already ready for bed. And I asked myself within 5 minutes of being there why I didn't just go to bed. Like, it was great seeing everyone. But at the same point, I was like, wow, it was already a lot like when you have your kid at a party and well, my child is not as like efficiently independent as yours are and she wants to be near me but like she was actually being kind of chaotic which I'm not used to so it put a different level of stress on me. Usually I'm stressed because she won't leave me alone. And I was stressed because I was like, where is she? And they were going upstairs and like chasing the cats and getting into stuff they shouldn't have been getting into.
Of course.
I mean, nothing like they didn't break anything or like destroy anything by any means, but it was just different than I'm used to. Usually she's just like glued to Tony or I. And I was just, okay, where
She must
are
have felt
you?
very comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I also was kind of eyeballing my house halfway through because I am not a football fan. And it was very fun seeing people, but I just kept being like, I could just walk across the backyard right now. And
You're like, I should have brought my book. Yeah.
That's what I said. I wish I would have brought my book.
And I didn't care about the Super Bowl at all. Like, those teams were just both in it. So,
it doesn't matter.
And, like, I don't like either of you.
I
just felt like nobody was super into the game. Like, the first party, like, everyone pretty much ignored the game. Second party, I don't know, like, everyone seemed kind of zoned out. I felt like it was a weird Super Bowl. I don't know. Like, the food was good. It was good to see people. But I don't feel like the commercials were great, and I don't feel like the game was.
I can't get over their kitchen.
Fun.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I've been thinking about it all week.
I have too.
I asked her probably 1,000 questions about it.
I told Jesse I'm just going to demolish our island one day when he's at work so that he has naturally to rebuild it when he gets home.
It was so huge. I was like, we could sleep on here. Like, at least 3 people.
Oh my gosh, it was so nice. I was telling Jesse how much I love their couch. I love that color. And I said, I just would be afraid to have that nice of a house because my kids, we always have people over and we're home all the time. And I just feel like I can't have nice things right now.
I know, kids destroy
not that era of your
life. Someday I'll have a beautiful house and clean, maybe.
When you're retired.
And then I'll just be traveling the world.
We'll be on vacation all the time.
What would your dream life look like when you're retired? I will go first because I already know. I would still like to live in Minnesota, but I think it'd be so nice to be like a snowbird for just 3 months, like January, February, March. Because just like get out of the really cold part and then go on a couple of vacations during the rest of the year.
I agree. I already know exactly where I want my snowbirding to happen at. Destin, Florida.
Oh.
It is just the clearest water and the softest sand. It's like that white soft sand. And you see dolphins every day.
Oh,
and like sea turtles. It's just gorgeous.
That sounds amazing.
So I could spend 3 months there and
not even think of home.
It would be amazing.
Do you know what you'd want to do?
I just want to travel the world. I feel like I just got my passport for the first time ever in my entire life. We didn't really travel when I was little because my mom was sick. So I'm just like ready to travel. And now I feel like we're too broke to travel.
Gotta find more cost-effective ways. My family was poor growing up, kind of, and we had 6 kids. We just did like the cheapest possible trips. But I remember a lot of family trips, but we were just
You can find cheap hotels or camp
or Airbnbs. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
said a lot of Airbnbs are good for that. But yeah, I don't know. I just want to go. I really want to go to Europe and do like a wine tour.
That'd be amazing.
Do it while you're young. This is what I keep thinking of like,
Yeah.
Okay, everyone is supposed to travel when they're retired, but you're like old and you can't do the stuff that you used to do.
Yeah.
You can't walk that long sometimes, like on your hip or knee or something, you know?
I think in my 30s, I want to go to Europe. Girls trip.
I'm down. All right.
I'll come.
Perfect. That sounds so amazing.
And then I won't come back.
We're European now.
I don't know anything about. I'm uncultured.
Said goodbye, I think. Isn't that goodbye?
Yes.
You want to say hello?
Hola.
Wrong continent.
In Spain.
Oh, I suppose. I was thinking like
I would love me
Italy, I guess.
Spain wine. Oh, so good.
Spanish.
Spanglish
wine.
Spanish
Just
wine.
not that fancy, but like a little bit fancy.
Yeah.
All right. Can you do your Am I the Asshole now? That was a really bad segue.
Yeah.
Hey. Did you bring your asshole today?
I did.
Perfect.
It's also kind of why I was late too.
Oh, bathroom problem.
Asshole problems.
Okay.
Shit happens.
Shit does happen. I sent you it.
I know.
said, don't read this.
I can give you my phone if you need to.
I got it.
Okay. Found her asshole.
Okay, I found my asshole. Okay. Am I the asshole for telling my son he is not to be dating girls at this point in his life? I recently found out my son has been dating, drinking wine, and doing who knows what else with girls at his school. I don't think he should be doing this kind of thing at this point in his life. He is a rising third-year student at a very good school. I want him to focus on studying and graduate school admissions. People need to write sentences.
People are very bad
that
at
make
writing
more
things in,
sense.
honestly. You have to decode it. What is a rising third-year student? Is that a junior in high school?
What are we?
Are they talking about high school?
So I have an edit.
confused.
You have an edit?
So,
Okay.
I need to edit at the end. He does not seem to understand how he is not to be doing this at his age. I told him this and he became utterly livid, spewing things like, I'm not acclimated to the life in this country. For reference, he was born and raised here while I moved here at the age of 30. I have no idea where here is. So, obviously, I want him to get married and start a family at some point, but not until he is much older. I do not think any of this is good for him at this age. He says that this is a very crazy thing of me to be like this. What a sentence.
She probably doesn't speak fluent English.
Yeah,
That's what I'm getting out of this.
That's what I'm getting. He has good grades, standards, and internships, and the style. But that should not be his singular focus, should it not? Edit syntax. Edit 2. He's 20. Rising third-year university student. This is the USA.
Like, let me edit this 4 times because no one knows what I'm saying.
Okay.
So he's a 20-year-old
The
college
author-
student.
I at first thought he was in high school, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe
A rising third
But-
year.
in
College? You're way too young to be drinking wine and talking to girls at 20.
I feel like I'd like to know where she is originally from,
So,
because that could add
I
some
think the
context.
author's name is Chinese
Okay,
or
that
Asian in some.
that
perspective.
explains a lot because they put a high value on education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I can see
Like,
her
don't be wasting your
perspective
time.
of like, I want you to make something of yourself. Probably she worked really hard to get here.
Yeah. Like, focus on your studies and then you can worry about girls after college is done.
Yeah.
I don't think she's like an asshole for any of it, but I would
No.
say it's really not her place. He's an
Yeah.
adult, so
Mhm.
he's free
Around
to
the house.
make his own choices.
I also wonder if they are paying for his college, though, because I
That
feel
would
like that
be-
definitely gives a different twist on it.
But it doesn't say his grades are slipping, does it?
No.
So then it's like, if he can do all that and maintain his grades, I wouldn't really
why
think.
do you care?
But I think in America, we're
She was
definitely
voted
more.
the asshole, which is sad. I don't think she's asshole.
Is she
She's just
worried?
worried.
I'm wondering, like, that he's going to get kicked out because he's underage drinking.
Oh,
or
yeah, that I forgot
things
that
like
20
that?
is underage. Well, I guess I was in my head, like, a lot of countries, it's like 16 or 18
Yeah.
outside of the US. So I don't, here, obviously, it's 21. But that's why I was like, if they're from a different country, maybe like their culture, they would have drank earlier. But
Maybe. I don't know. But
I think she needs to let him go. She wants to hold on to her baby.
Mhm.
And she needs to realize that he's 20 and it's okay to, like, make mistakes and learn from them.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that's the biggest thing is just letting your kids make mistakes because they're gonna mess up. Like, look at your own life. You probably messed up a few times.
Look at you.
Look at you.
You're a total fuck up.
You fucked up.
And you're okay now.
And you're fine. You made it through the other
Not great,
side.
but you're okay.
You had a son. You left your country. You're doing pretty well. As long as she didn't want to be in her country. I mean,
Yeah. She's kicked out.
she actually is a total fuck.
She was kicked out for actually drinking.
At 20 with a bunch of boys in her dorm room. Wild mom. She's like,
Bringing that up, that makes me think maybe she did something.
Yeah.
And then
I
she
feel
like
like
went
she was
downwards due to that.
I feel like some parents can get a little bit overprotective, especially when they're like, well, when I was your age, I was doing this. So they're just like, what are you doing at the same exact age?
Yeah. Well, you feel like it's so hard when you learn so many life lessons that you can't learn it until you do it and go through it yourself and grow. You want to like save them from repeating your mistakes. And I wouldn't even say mistakes, like life lessons that you have to learn. You can't expedite that process. They have to learn themselves. You can't just like save them.
Well, we all know kids learn the hard way.
Right.
For sure.
They're not going to learn from just your words.
No, that's unfortunate. And I'm sure as a mom, I mean, it's really hard to think about letting go. That's a good segue into our topic today.
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say, do you want to start by giving like can you tell us a little
tell
bit
us
about
your mom journey? Tell us what happened. How did you become a mother?
So I'm like most first time moms, maybe. No, I shouldn't say that. I had Mason very young. So I was 21 when I found out I was pregnant. And that kind of changed my world. It made me grow up very fast. And like, I just realized what was maybe more important in life. Usually people are partying, going out at 21. Yeah, I was growing a baby. So I was not doing any of that. And I had to really reevaluate what direction I was going in. And I had Mason, and like, he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I think I would have done a lot of really not great things had I not had him.
why are you bleeding?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
You're bleeding. How do you not know what happened?
Gushing blood. What would happen? I don't know.
I have a bruise on the outside of the skin, I guess. Blood trapped on the skin is a bruise. That's the nearest nice lesson for the man.
If it's coming out of you, you're bleeding.
This is motherhood when you're trying to record a podcast. Anyway, continue, Marissa.
So Mason's dad and I separated when he was only 6 months old. So all I kind of know is him going between two households.
What?
You just said that it was a spider. It jumped up on his hand.
Yeah,
It's like I
Roger.
don't hang out with you every day, all the time.
Why are they so obsessed with me? I
don't
swear. I'm not even that fun, honestly. Okay, anyway, sorry.
So he goes between two households.
Yes.
We parent the complete opposite. So I'm
Lovely.
very hands-on, like, let's talk about everything, kind of in your face, maybe a little too much. And his dad is very like, I don't even know where Mason is in my house or if he is at my house. So they don't like, we always have like family dinner. We really have a strong open line of communication at our house. Like, we always say goodnight to each other.
Yeah.
And when I talk to Mason when he's over there, he'll like have ordered a pizza and we'll be eating alone in his room. Like, it just makes me sad. Like, it's just very
different dynamics.
Yes. And so I think that puts maybe a little different spin too on how dating is going for us, because I can't control anything that's happening elsewhere. Like, I can only touch base on what's happening at my house, which is tricky.
That's really hard.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
And I mean, control is like an illusion anyway, but it's like when you're literally not able to even like have eyes on the situation or know what's going on.
Well, and you can't control kids. I mean, example, kids came in 3 times. You can't. I mean, and there's no point to doing it, but you can at least feel like you have a say in some things. But when he's there, I have no say over anything.
Yeah.
I think that would be one of the hardest things would be co-parenting. I can't even imagine, especially with somebody that you're not
compatible with.
Or you don't have the same parenting style.
Yeah.
Because I even feel like in a married relationship or a partnership, even if you're not married and you're like in the same household with the same goals, raising your kids is so different. Like, it's sometimes even hard to navigate that, but you both have the same like outlook and you're both on the same team. But when you're kind of like just trying to figure it out separately, it's hard.
The thing I say to myself all the time is, it is what it is. And you just have to just go with it. Like,
that's all you can do.
Yeah.
It is.
One question I wrote down was, how is it having like a older kid with a younger kid? Because how far is their age gap?
Well, Lulu's 3 and he's almost 16. So
Okay.
they're about 13 years apart.
Okay, how is that life?
It's intense.
Yeah.
Like you can't, it's really hard to plan anything
Yeah.
because a 15-year-old doesn't want to do what a 3-year-old wants to do. Like, he has off this coming Monday for President's Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, should we go to the zoo together? And he's just like, why would I want to do that? And this is like, yeah, let's go.
And the little ones are the more opinionated usually. I mean, obviously teenagers are opinionated in a different way, but like almost always we're going to kind of bend to the toddler
Yes,
because
I
they're
feel
the
like
ones
he
that
gets sidelined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I hate doing that. And we do try to make certain things a priority for him. But yeah, you kind of do cater to your younger one when you have such a gap.
Mhm.
Because if you're bringing the 3-year-old to something they don't want to do, you're going to hear it a lot more than you will from your 15-year-old. Like your 15-year-old's going to complain, but your 3-year-old will throw fits and
Make
just
your life,
pretty much drive you crazy the
Yeah.
entire time and you're doing whatever you're doing.
make it known to everyone.
Yes.
And the neighbors.
And then it's really hard to just like conversations, like when we talk at the dinner table, like Mason's old enough where we can have really good conversations with him. And then Lulu's like, hi, I'm Pinkalicious. Like, I think she's just,
you're like,
Yeah.
and then
right
she
now.
just wants attention for random things. She'll be like, mom, 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 mom. And then I look over at her and I'm like, what? And she's like, hi, look at this. Like, hi? You interrupted this conversation for hi. Okay, cool. Yes,
She's like,
hi.
I'm still here, just so you know.
I still exist.
So, I mean, it does throw a little spin on parenting for sure to have the age gap.
Yeah.
And it's also fun too. I feel like I get the best of both worlds as well, where
Yeah.
I can have like a kid that I can have those conversations with, and then I can also have a kid that like I could just say whatever I want to, gibberish, and I think it's funny.
Yeah. I believe you.
I was wondering, did you have any like restrictions with Mason with dating, like for his age? I know I was not allowed to date till I was 16. So did you guys have any rules? Or are you just like kind of winging it as you go?
I think we're kind of winging it. Like,
Yeah.
we knew he wasn't going to be an early dater just because he was really focused on like sports and friends and doing his own thing, and kind of thought for the longest time like girls were a waste of time. Like, he had friends that were dating. He's like, oh, they take up so much of their time. And it's just, I don't have time or patience for that. And like he knew like he just did not want that in his life yet. And I don't think I would have put an age restriction on it either. I just would have had different guidelines, I guess.
I always thought it was kind of silly because it's like an arbitrary age. Like, you can be, I mean, 16 is such, like, why 16? You know, like, because you can drive. I wasn't even allowed to get my license at that age yet. And so it's like, somebody at 16 would have a lot different developmentally.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people would be like, why do you care? But some people are more mature at like 14, 15. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like a weird.
I think it should go based off of your kid, but like, also I think that's just like a kind of a lazy way to be like, okay, when you're 16, we can talk about it then. Like, I feel like you're just pushing it off to be like, I don't want to talk about it now because I don't want to deal with it. Really, like, I don't know.
I feel like that's when you get secrets too.
Yeah.
Like,
for
my
sure.
parents were definitely on the stricter side, but they didn't put an age limit, but I felt more hesitant to talk to them about my dating life because I knew they didn't want me to date.
Yeah, my 16th birthday gift was a purity ring
Oh,
from my parents.
I was living in the Wild West. I don't know. I feel like my parents didn't talk about it and they didn't have restrictions. My dad was like, I asked him once, I was like, why don't you put restrictions on things? And he's like, well, have you given me a reason not to trust you? And I was like, I guess not. And he's like, until that happens, why do it? And I was like, okay.
I think that's a really good way to parent, actually.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I was like a good kid. Like, I didn't really party or do anything So, I mean, I feel like my parents knew that, so they were pretty chill.
You're like the dream child.
Really, I still am.
I was a goody two shoes as well, but now look at me, hot mess express. Just
Rebel.
kidding. Yeah, huge rebel.
Just a hot mom slut. I don't know.
Okay, that's the next sweatshirt, hot mom slut.
Hashtag swingers.
Just an idea. Do you have anything that you feel like really, how do I say it? Anything that you've learned with Mason that you feel like you would do differently with Lulu? Or
Oh, yeah.
do you like how things have been going?
I feel like they are totally different personalities. I think you just have to take each kid as they come.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, I don't know if I've made big mistakes with Mason yet with this dating stuff because we're not that far into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think it's okay to learn with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also like the what you said about each kid being different. Like, obviously, that's true, but being part of like a big family, I don't feel like we were parented any differently based on personality or who we were. So sometimes I forget. Like, my kids are always together, so I do kind of have that herd mentality. Of course, there's like different personalities, but that's like good advice to remember as they get older. Like, they all are going to have different needs, and you got to meet them where they're at.
I think that's the teacher in me. It's like you have to teach every kid differently because they all learn in a different way, and your kids are going to be the exact same as that.
Yeah.
Like, what works with Mason is not going to work with Lulu.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost 100% certain of that.
We'll check back in
12 years.
Reunion podcast.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so funny. She had Mason write something up too of his perspective.
Yeah,
which
so
I was
I'll go
love
through
that.
like my dating tips and then I'll kind of go through what he said.
Yes, I can't wait.
So I think my biggest one is just having an open line of communication with your kids. Like, that is step one. You need to be able to talk to them and they need to be able to talk to you. Like, if you're constantly making it seem like it's not good to be dating, or like your parents did, like putting a restriction of like 16 right there, that kind of like kiboshes the communication line.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say, talk about what dating is, what it should look like, what it should feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, theirs is going to be different from yours, but they should feel happy in a relationship, and you should make sure, like, checking in with them that they are. We do that constantly with Mason. Like, are you happy? Like, how do you feel? Are you guys in a good place together?
Yeah.
Talking about like their disagreements so we can shed light on like how Tony and I handle our arguments, things like that. And then I think a lot of people shy away from talking about sex.
Yeah.
And like, my parents did not talk to me about sex
Same.
at all. They were just like, don't have it. That was it.
No,
We never even talked about it. They're like, it exists. Close your eyes. They're making out.
my parents would literally, if I had a question, they would pull me aside. I'd ask something really generic, not even anything major, and they'd be like, my mom would be like, oh, shh, okay, come here. And she'd like usher me into a bedroom and shut the door. And then all of a sudden I'd panic and I'd be like, I changed my mind. I don't want to know. This seems really heavy. And then she'd be like, don't tell your brothers about this. Because my brothers were younger and they wanted to like keep their innocence or whatever. And then it's like, there's this page that I would like to link. It's like a Christian sex page, which sounds very weird when I'm saying that. It's like a more conservative but open way of talking to your kids about sex. And one thing that they say is the age of your household is the age of your oldest child. So it's like, you don't have to, you always like tweak it age appropriately, obviously the message, but that it's okay to have conversations. You don't have to like be all hush hush and make it feel shameful, because then you get scared to ask any questions because you're like, well, this is a huge deal. I guess I should never have asked what a condom was.
Yes, I'm very clueless when it came to sex because my parents didn't talk to me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of parents just assume the schools are teaching it, and they're teaching sex education, but they're not going in depth. They're not. I mean, your kids are clueless. Think of how kids you were.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to sit down and have a very serious conversation. And sex is just not sex. It's like intimacy.
Yeah.
Like, talk about being respectful and kind and checking in with the person that you're having sex with and making sure they're okay.
I mean, especially when you're that age, I feel like as a teenager, I didn't have sex when I was very young, but like I picture, if you started when you're in your younger teens, that'd be a much different type of feeling than if you were like in your 20s casually hooking up. Would be a totally different emotional,
Yes.
the emotional part would be different. Possibly, not necessarily.
I just feel like when you're that, like, a teenager in high school, like, everything feels so big because your world is so small. And so, like, having a sexual encounter when you're a teenager is just, like, so traumatic, no matter if it's good or bad. Like, it's just, like...
It rocks your world versus, like, not that it's not as big of a deal when you're in your 20s, but for some people, it's... or as an adult in general, some people it's not that big of a deal. Some people it is a huge deal. But I do feel like as a teenager, that emotional side of it is so much more important to talk about.
Well, and people often will just have the talk, like the birds, the bees. Like dating and sex go together, and that talk should happen at the same time. And then it doesn't just feel like you're sitting there talking about sex. You're sitting there and you're having a conversation about what dating is like, and that sex does happen when you're dating people. Like, it might not, but it might. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, my kid's too young. Like, I don't need to have this conversation yet. Yes, you do. Because, unfortunately, kids are more sexually active younger and younger these days because it's just out there on social media. It's so in their face that they just think it's normal. And it is. I mean, we shouldn't shame it, right? No. Sex is normal.
Yeah.
But
you don't want them to be like
when they're
in over their head. Yeah. And they don't need to make like possibly lifelong decisions by not being educated. Yeah. All of a sudden you're like a pregnant 16-year-old like that because you weren't educated. But that quote Christian sex page is called Birds and Bees, by the way. Just if we did link it. But on that page it also said that you should just have a bunch of little conversations. It doesn't have to be like today you're having the talk.
Yeah, that's one thing I actually wrote down. It is an ongoing conversation. Like it shouldn't be, okay, we talked about it. Now we're never talking about this again. Good luck.
Right, you're like, phew, I got that out of the way. That one talk. And
I feel like the first one is definitely the most awkward. But then after that, it's like open the door to just freely chatting about it.
I feel like my sex talk with my kid is to be a little different since I feel like some people say like the words and they're like, but I feel like since my job with fertility for so long that I would like describe to people what ejaculation was so long.
It doesn't faze you.
It doesn't faze me. Like
I think that's such a bonus for your kids. Like seriously, because I think a lot of parents, it feels so awkward to them that they skip a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, semen, ejaculation, masturbate.
Yeah, we were also, that was like a sin, masturbation.
Oh, yeah, we were told that too.
Yeah, so that's a whole other, like, don't you feel like purity culture can definitely cause issues later in your life?
Yes. Well, it makes you question yourself a lot.
Like, makes you feel like dirty all the time.
Am I sinning right now? Like,
it feels like you feel dirty or like confused about like, so
why am I having these feelings? I shouldn't be having these feelings.
Sorry, like your whole life you're told sex is a sin. It's a sin, 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 sin. But the second you get married, all of a sudden, oh, it's beautiful and wonderful and it connects you to somebody and it's amazing. And it's like, it's really hard to disconnect the two all the time, to be like, oh, all of a sudden I'm supposed to like it and I'm not sinning anymore. It's a miracle.
Yeah. I agree with that. I was so hesitant to tell my parents when I got pregnant.
Oh.
And I just couldn't tell them for weeks. I was just like, how do I say this? Like they're going, and my dad honestly did not talk to me for months. Like he was just so disappointed. Mason came. He doesn't care, obviously, anymore.
That's what always happens, and it makes me so fucking pissed off because that's exactly how one of our parents reacted. Kian was a surprise baby, and I was just like, "You're not going to talk to us for 2 months, and then once the baby comes here, you're like okay with it? Like fuck you! Like what the hell?"
Even when I moved in with Jesse when we were engaged,
this is so stupid.
Did they tell you to sleep in separate bedrooms?
No,
They wanted me to get married in a courthouse before we did that. And they also didn't pay for any of our wedding. And they told me that ahead of time, that they wouldn't pay for my wedding if I lived with somebody before I was married.
Oh my gosh.
But they paid for my brother's wedding and my other brother's wedding. So it's a little double standard.
And that's weird because it's usually the daughter's wedding you pay for.
I still remember my mom telling me, she's like, I wrote her this whole 2-page letter just apologizing that I was going to be moving in with Jesse and breaking the news to her. And she read like 2 sentences and threw the notebook across the room. And she's like, so I guess this means you're not a virgin either. And I was like 20. I've been with Jesse for 4 years. And I said,
no, I am.
No, I've never said.
What is a penis?
I hate penises. I've heard of them.
I'm actually a lesbian.
I know. We're platonic soulmates. But
We just snuggle.
yes, exactly. But I still remember that, and I said, I'm sorry. And she's like, I don't care if you've had sex with 1 person or 100 people because you're not married. There's no difference. And I'm like,
There's a big difference.
I was like, I don't judge people's like body count, but like, I feel like there's a slight difference if it's 1 in 100. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
I would agree with that. Okay, I'll go back to the dating tips.
Yes.
So I said, just an ongoing conversation with your kids. And then another big thing is like modeling what a relationship looks like. I feel like they are watching you even when you don't know they're watching you. So like, how do you handle confrontation? And like, are you affectionate towards your partner? Like, do you go out of your way to do sweet things to them? I feel like just modeling what a respectful, healthy relationship looks like is huge.
Yeah.
And then you need to lay out your expectations with your kids.
Yeah.
So they know just like what your guidelines are, what your boundaries are. With Mason, when they first started dating, they thought we were going to drive them constantly. And I was like, well, sorry, no. That's not happening.
Like, there's came on FaceTime.
Yeah, exactly. Or call an Uber. I'm not your Uber.
Mason and his girlfriend don't go to the same school, which makes
Okay.
it much more challenging because if they were seeing each other at school,
Yeah.
it would eliminate some of this like need to see each other. And so they felt like we constantly have to get together.
Yeah.
And I said, we're going to do like once a week here. And then on the weekends, he's at his dad's. And I'm like, and he can decide how much he wants to do
Yeah.
over there. But we just want to make sure like his studies aren't suffering.
Yeah.
And things like that because he's in AP classes and you lose things if you drop grades. And so we just want to make sure his priorities are straight. And he's shown us he can handle both.
Yeah.
So he'll get more as he continues to, prove he can handle it.
You
So
don't
we
want them to
talked
be
about, like,
overwhelmed either.
How often they can go out. I know you said your parents kind of had a restriction on that too, of like how often you could see Jesse.
2 times
What?
a week. I had it on a calendar, a paper calendar in my room, and I would have Jesse and a heart on the calendar 2 times. And my mom started to be like, I feel like you saw him already twice this week. And I'd be like,
Oh.
And I don't think we have like that strict, but it's like the driving part. of it.
Yeah.
We're like, we'll drive this many times in a week
Yeah.
and then we're done. If
how
you
far
can
does she
figure
live?
out, well, she goes between 2 households as well.
okay.
So one of her households is in
Town nearby.
and that can be a trek depending on the time of day. And it's usually during rush hour. That
Well, and
they
there and
want
back
to get together.
Twice,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah.
And then her dad is in,
A different town.
which is much easier, but we have to take
A highway near them.
everywhere. I mean, I'm sure you feel that too.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
so
it's
it's
so
stoplight,
busy
stoplight, yeah.
all the time.
And you can hit the lights like all wrong, and then you're
Yes.
like double the trip time.
Mhm. And so we've just kind of put restrictions on how much we feel like driving.
Yeah.
And kind of when she's going to leave our house
Yeah.
type things. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we're tired tonight, so it's going to be an early drop off.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then also like talk about where they're going.
Mhm.
And that you need to stay where you say you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's important, especially with how things are now, just like
Mhm.
knowing where your kids are. And then just like your guidelines at your house too, like we are doors open, lights on.
Mm-hmm. No
And-
blankets.
Yes.
Lower your hand.
And I
Don't let your
always
lap
like
out.
we check frequently of
Yeah.
what's going on. And I'll announce too, because I just I don't want to embarrass them or anything, but I'll be like, upstairs right now.
That's so funny, but also so kind for everybody involved. Like, you don't want to see anything you can't unsee.
Yeah.
And also, it's just better all around.
Yes.
I think that's just win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and at first I was like, I'm just going to sneak in on them occasionally. And then I was like, why would I want to do that to myself?
No.
Picture you like slamming the door open. No,
What's going on here?
and they're just like,
You like jump scare them.
you're just always hiding in
Yeah.
some nook of the. I mean, that'll be hilarious.
Very
Sometimes.
funny.
Very
But
funny.
I could put myself then being in a situation I don't want to be.
Like, oh my god. You're like, I'm here, leaving though, right now. My eyes are closed.
Run into a wall.
It says when you have a teenager, always knock.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is very true. But mine is more like, I'm not knocking because your door is open, so I'm yelling.
I'm announcing my presence in this home.
And then our biggest thing with Mason, too, is like to be flexible with us because our plans change, which means his plans can change. And that's happened a couple times, and he gets so disappointed because, you know, when you're a teenager, it's the end of the world if you can't see your person.
Yeah.
And he's felt that a couple times, and I just have to say, like, unfortunately, these are the circumstances right now, and we'll try to make it work another time.
Yeah.
But kind of laying that out, too, of like, telling them in advance, like, plans might change, and you just have to go with the flow, just like we'll try to go with the flow when your plans change, because these two are the worst planners in the world. I'm sorry. Like, they just cannot get their act together sometimes. And, like, he'll come and change plans, like, 6 times. And I'm finally like, if they change one more time, it's not happening because I'm over it.
Well, and that's just being a part of a household and being respectful of other people. And you're respectful of him if he already has plans. He's respectful. You guys, like, everybody has individual lives and needs. And, like, if you're in the household, like, as a mom, I feel like we're always like the martyrs. You shouldn't be, but people do kind of play the martyr a lot. You shouldn't have to sacrifice all your plans just to make it work so that your kid gets to do what he wants to do. It's like, it's give and take.
Well, and I feel like so many parents cater now to their kids so much, and I'm not like that. I think you should know what the real world's like.
Yeah.
And your job isn't going to cater to you. You will cater to your job.
Exactly.
So you need to understand what that is like. So we just don't.
Here to teach you real life.
Exactly.
And then we talk about a lot, like, who drives. So if we're driving one day, then we want the next time, like, her parents to drive. We just don't think it should be one-sided.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we also, like, get to know who your kid is dating. So our first time meeting her, we actually, like, invited her out to a restaurant. And we all, like, sat down as a family and got to know her, which was probably overwhelming for her. But I was like, this is my kid. And I need to know who you are.
Yeah.
And we also did the same thing with her parents. Like, we got to know them. We exchanged numbers. It's so important to have their numbers because if something were to happen, God forbid, like, you need to be in communication with them as well. And just with all the things kids are going through these days, to have an open line to the other parents.
I would not want to be a teenager in this day and age.
I would not.
No, it's yucky.
No.
And then here's Mason's tips from his side. And actually, I loved that his kind of aligned with mine. He wrote his after I wrote mine, and he didn't look at mine.
Did he want to do this?
He was totally fine with it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. He's like, because you guys don't, I mean, he thinks, we don't know what we're talking about, of course. So his first one was like, try to understand better what it's like to be a teenager.
Yeah.
And I try to put myself in his shoes, but it is so hard when you're a parent to, like, go back to when you were a teen.
Well, and it's different when it's your kid. Like, you're so protective and like it's hard. You can't, like, dissociate that part that they're your child.
That is self-trained. I feel like in a mom's DNA to, like, keep your kid safe. So to just let them go it's scary.
Yeah.
And then he said set reasonable guidelines, which I felt like I talked about in mine. And then he said, like, give help with rides and advice. And then he said, we're teenagers, we're going to make mistakes. Help us on the right path and don't shame us.
Oh.
So I know, and I asked him after, because I looked at that and I was like, do I shame you? Because I felt like it was directed at me. And he goes, I don't think you do. He goes, maybe like occasionally.
Yeah.
He goes, but like, I don't think you're purposely doing it, but you'll say something. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I need to work on that. So it's good, like, that he wrote this because now I know something that I can work on. And then, like, an open line of communication, which was what I said. And then he said, sex is healthy and normal depending on age. Use protection. So, yay, use protection. All right. We got that excited.
Thank God.
And then he said, have all parents have communication.
Wow.
So we had a lot that
you
aligned.
have really like hit it home for him, I feel like, with your intentions and and he's received it really well.
Yeah.
And I feel, I don't know if he carries this over to other households, but I feel like for the most part he does.
Yeah.
He's a good kid.
You're killing it. You're killing it at this mom thing.
There are so many days though where you just feel, and I'm sure you feel this too, where you're like, that day could just go away.
Yeah, that was a bad mom day.
I just didn't like that one.
Bad mom mode that day. But I think the biggest thing is apologizing to your kids. I probably apologize every single day. And I don't even like yell or anything, but little things like, I'm sorry I wasn't like, I didn't play with you enough today. I had, a lot on my plate, or I felt really stressed, or literally sometimes I'm like, I have a really hard day. Like the day before my period is like my worst mom day ever. And I just cry and feel super overwhelmed and overstimulated. And they're obviously with me all the time. And they ride that wave with me too, because they know.
Well, I feel like mine is day 2 of my period.
And I'm
like, I'm a nightmare.
Don't talk to me.
I'm like, you guys, you'll understand when you're a teenager. It's hormones. I can't help it. And they're like, oh. And
like Tony always knows that day too. He's like, okay.
Well, let's say we're ovulating right now, so
yeah,
we're riding that high. Have you seen the TikTok trend where it's like,
I saw a TikTok with that today. That was somebody who planted a ton of tomato plants last summer, and then the second it got nice outside, they just like abandoned them all.
That would be me.
Is there any last questions or anything you want to share before we move on to the mom moment?
Do you guys have any questions since you're not at this point yet?
I think, no, I'm just going to take it one day at a time.
I think that's a good call.
Try to,
don't borrow
borrow
trouble. Don't borrow trouble.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try to like set a good foundation for open communication now, and then hopefully that rolls over into teenage years, and then just accept that teenage years are rough,
and hopefully have enough trust and like relationship built by that point that you can trust your kid without feeling like.
Just know when you go through it, you're not alone. And every other teenage parent is going through the same thing. And if they're not, they're like drunk or something.
I also feel like parenting is like levels. Like I'm on the furthest level is level 7 with my oldest. You're on level almost 16. And so it's like you just progressively master each level, and then something else throws at you. But I can't parent at a level 16. Not yet. I don't know what I'm doing. No. So I have to get through the other levels first.
I agree with that.
Yeah. One silly question I have is, do you have an iPhone?
I do.
What is your bar at the bottom? Your set bar? Like, what are your apps?
Okay.
What are your apps?
Internet, phone, messages, and email.
Okay.
Phone, internet, messages, FaceTime.
I have phone, internet, messages, Google Drive.
Why?
You have so many docs.
I don't even know why I have email, because I don't even use email.
I don't even
4,000 email. Oh my gosh. I unread. Delete.
I do it occasionally.
Those are my emotional support emails.
I sent you an email on there. Never got it.
You're like, oh, that goes to the land beyond. There's nothing.
I had too many emails that day, so I just select all deleted them.
I create new emails and just ignore my old ones.
If I don't see the email physically come through and I touch it at that time, it's gone. It's lost in the internet. So you better hope you emailed me while I'm staring directly at my phone.
Which not texting too.
Like, oh yeah. Oof. Don't text me.
It
It's
gets
bad.
very quick. I try not to touch the notifications so that I remind myself,
me
but then
too.
I have 13 more people text me, and then I'm like, oh no, I can't see the notification.
You gotta catch me on the mood where I'm
Tony
like,
will be like,
willing
why
to
did you never
reply.
answer me? And I'm like,
I did in my head. So you get it?
Yeah, how can you not be
Gosh.
telepathic like Reese and Feyre?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, spoiler alert if you're on book 2 of
They talk about it.
Avatar.
Okay.
All right, I have a mom moment that actually was so funny last night. I was telling Judah that you were going to be on the podcast today, Marissa, and he's like, oh, she's going to be so nervous. But she's never been on a podcast before. And I said, no, I don't think that she has. I said, why do you say that? Is that because you were nervous last week when I let you talk into the microphone during a podcast? And he's like, yes. And I said, why are you nervous? And he goes, I was talking in the microphone and everyone on earth would hear me. That's so cute. You could hear me, right? And like, pretty much. We're pretty much famous.
They could if they wanted to.
I was
That's
actually
true.
really excited to do this. The only thing I was nervous about was like I'm kind of congested right now, and I was like, am
You
I
sound
going to
good.
sound
You sound
very
good.
nasally?
I was congested for the first 7 episodes.
I was definitely congested last episode. I just got done editing it.
I know one other mom moment, which was with you on before the Super Bowl, where like we went to Heidi to get a couple last minute things without the kids.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
It was very nice, and there was a guy there, family. So the dad was like kind of losing it on the kids. He's like, "We've been here for 5 minutes. You guys have asked me 55 questions. Stop it!" And Heidi was crazy busy at Heidi because
So
Super Bowl Sunday, and we get in line at the self checkout, and there's this like older woman in front of us, and then I said to Lindsay, I was like, "Can you believe people have kids?" And she's like, "Yeah, mistake number 1." And then the old lady turns around and just gives us this.
You would have been dead if
She
you looked
just-
You
at
should have
like,
been showing her a picture on her phone, like, these are my kids.
yeah,
I know.
I don't have kids.
It was just like, you wretched women without wanting baby.
Horrible people.
Like, we already had the
We
baby.
already had them, so that was mistake number 1.
Made the mistake, ma'am.
And I bet you did too, from the look on your face.
Like, I actually made 3.
I made 3 mistakes. No, just kidding. I love my kids, obviously.
Yeah.
I love them, but it's funny to joke about them making mistakes when they're all planned. I mean,
Mine was kind of a mistake.
Ian was a mistake.
He was
a surprise. He was a happy accident.
Yep.
And luckily
Yeah, Mason
now
was a happy accident. Lulu was like super planned.
Yeah, down to the
Like,
day.
please come. No, like we were just trying for her
Yeah.
for a while.
you're like, how'd I get knocked up on birth control the first time, and this time I have to like
Try.
It's your age.
offer like some type of offering to the gods of fertility.
I knew it right away. I was like, this is going to be much harder because I was 21 and then I'm not going to divulge how old I am. So, and then I was older with
Yeah.
the next one.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you have a 20%.
No one's gonna do the math.
You have a 20% chance of getting pregnant spontaneously when you're the ages between like when you have your first period and like 25, and then after 25 you have like a 10% chance. It's crazy. It just
That
like
makes sense.
drops.
It is really weird that teenagers have like peak fertility.
Scary.
It is scary.
That's because our life span was much shorter.
Yeah.
So they had
Yeah.
to.
Well, the sperm count's going down in the United States, just in general.
Well,
So-
that might be a good thing because I think there's a lot of people having babies that maybe shouldn't have babies.
Yeah, they keep knocking
And
down
too many
the
babies.
average of
Yeah.
like motility, morphology, all the requirements to be normal keeps going down.
Is it the pesticides? It is.
It's
Say
probably
it is.
the GMOs, the pesticides.
The years of birth control, that doesn't affect the sperm, but sometimes I wonder if that affects
Oh,
why
yeah,
the fertility
for
rates
sure.
and periods are so
Weird.
off. If people are like, I don't know why I can't get pregnant. I was only on birth control for 20 years. You know, you're like,
Sometimes
sometimes you
I've
can
been
right
for
away.
3 days and I haven't been pregnant. I'm like, what's
Yeah, I wasted all that time and money on those pills. But some people get off birth control. I got pregnant with Naya the second month after being off birth control. I was 26, I think, or 25.
I accidentally got pregnant the first time. I was off birth control for like 3 months. No, yeah? I don't know.
No one knows.
Who knows?
Did you ever tell
It was
the story
less
of what
than-
happened to you when you were with your blood clot?
Oh. So the reason I had to get off birth control is because I had a giant blood clot in my head and
Oh my gosh.
like almost Like, they're like, we are shocked that you are talking right now. And so
That's scary.
they were like, you're very lucky you did not have a stroke. And so I was hospitalized for like a week on heparin, and now I can never be on hormonal birth control. I could do like the copper IUD, but we just wing it. We just hope and pray.
Pray for the best.
I mean, the first time was like, glad we got pregnant. I had a miscarriage, but we definitely was like, oop, that was like a definite oops. Like, I don't know how it happened. And then the second time we got pregnant with Kian, that was like, yeah, well, that you didn't even try. You pulled the goalie for sure.
Fool me once, shame on
Full pull.
you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, honestly. But yeah, so I can't be on birth control, and that's why. But I'm kind of glad that I got off birth control when I was 22 because of my blood clot, and I haven't been on it since.
Mm-hmm.
And like my hair and nails grow crazy now, so if you're ever thinking about it, do it. You might have a baby, but
Ooh, I don't want any more. I love my 2. And they're like
snip,
2.
snap, snip,
They're
snap,
like
snip,
2
snap.
only children.
Yeah, you don't need a third only child.
Exactly. Because it would be like that for sure. And I'm totally about, I don't think Tony's on board with this, and I would love to foster.
Yeah.
I would love to. I already asked Jesse. He said no.
He's like, random kids in our house? I don't think so. He's like, you don't know like what they've been through and then what they'll do. And I'm like, well, you can't have that in your mind going into it.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to create a good environment for somebody that hasn't had one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to be a foster parent. Jesse goes, why do you keep trying to add stress to your life? Like, why do you want to add more to your plate? And I'm like, I thrive in chaos.
I love it.
I love to feel like I'm spread so thin. I might snap, you know?
Every day. So good. I don't have a lot of moments. I
have a
Yours was
couple
a joint
moments.
one with mine already.
I don't remember that.
I have a couple. So I told you this one. This actually happened like a couple weeks back. So I was in a public restroom and Lulu had to go to the bathroom. And I was like, you know what? While we're in here, I'm going to go to the bathroom too. So I was like, okay, don't open the door. I'm going to go to the bathroom. And she's like, okay, do you have to take a big poop right now? And there's other people in this public bathroom. And I'm like, no, I don't need to take a poop right now. I'm just going to pee. Why? Because you're constipated? Just like the lady next to me is dying.
I would die too. I'd be like,
and I was like, no, I just don't need to go poop right now. I'm just peeing. And she's like, you're constipated.
like, thanks, doctor.
We come out, and this lady next to me is like watching her hands at the same time as we are. And she's like, I'm sorry, that was just the cutest thing ever. She's like, I could not hold in my laughter. I tried, and I couldn't. I was like, it's okay. It was pretty fun. Also embarrassing.
I'm so embarrassed. She's like, we're going to get the tummy medicines and be relaxed. You know, when we get home.
And then my other one is, so I'm sure you've had this happen to you before where you tell your kids to clean up and they don't.
Oh, yeah.
So we had to get going. Lulu had school for like the first time, and I'm wanting her to clean up her magnetiles, and she just keeps building. And I know she can hear me because she's looking at me every time I'm telling her to clean up. Like, she'll turn, look, and then just go back building like she never heard me. And I'm like on my 7th time of very nicely asking her to clean up these magnetiles.
Yeah.
It's like, we have to get going. You need to clean up your magnetiles. And then she turns, looks, turns back, starts building again. And I'm like, okay, I've had it. I'm very much over this. So I went, and very immature of me, but I knocked down her magnetile tower that she was building because I was like, you have to clean this up anyway, so what's the harm? And I just knock it down. And she glares at me, and she says, look at my face. Do I look impressed? I had to burst out laughing because that is something I say to her when she is frustrating me. So my words came back to bite me in the ass, but I start laughing. Then she starts crying because she thinks I'm laughing at her, but I'm just laughing at the fact that she copied what I said. So here I am, like, dying of laughter, and here she is bawling her eyes out.
You're like, this is chaos.
It was just great.
That is a mom moment, honestly.
Yeah.
A day in the life.
For real.
Kids are little sponges, though.
Yeah.
You just love when they throw your words back in your face, don't you?
Yes. And she does that frequently to me.
You're
where
getting through to her.
She will just
Yeah,
give me a
she's
taste of my
listening.
own medicine. I have one more mom moment. So yesterday, our smoke detector started beeping and needed a new battery.
Yeah.
And of course, this is while Lulu's napping. It always happens while we're sleeping, where she's sleeping. And I had just gotten her down for nap. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And we had our carbon monoxide thing go off in the middle of the night, like 3 nights prior to this. So I assumed it was that again. And like we put dead batteries in it.
Yeah.
So I go up and I'm like standing in the hall waiting for it to beep. And I'm like, oh, it's not that. And so I go down a little further in the hall to the smoke detector. It's not that. Now, our house is weird. We have a smoke detector in every single bedroom because the people before us had an autistic son. And so they put smoke detectors like everywhere upstairs. And so I'm like, I go into like Tony and I's bedroom. Nope, it's not that one. I go in Mason's bedroom. Nope, it's not that one. I go in the guest bedroom. Nope. And I'm like, great, it's in her room. And so I go in there and I'm standing there and she's like, stop the beeping. Why is it doing this again? Like she's just so upset about it because it just happened the other night. And I was like, it's a different one. I think it's yours. And I'm standing there and it's not beeping. And then I hear it beep and I'm like, it is the guest room. And I'm like, sorry. And I go to leave. And she's like, don't leave me with that beeping. Like she's just freaking out about this beeping. And I'm like, okay. And so I don't change the smoke detectors. That's something that Tony does.
That's a man.
And they're like up high. So I'm like on the bed trying to like get this thing off and I like rip it out of the ceiling. And there's like wires dangling, but there's no battery. Where like when I changed the ones in my own place, there were like batteries there. And I'm like, where is this battery? And so I'm like sitting there, I'm like, cool. This doesn't have a battery. Like, I don't even know what to do here. So I'm like looking at the whole thing, like, what do you do? How do you get a battery out of this? And so I finally find it has a slide thing. I didn't even have to take it off of the ceiling. It like slides very nicely open. And you can just pop this battery out. So I do that and it continues to beep. But now it's beeping more frequently because I've taken this battery out. And I'm like, what do I do now? And I'm like, okay, I'll go to the main level and take a battery out of one of those smoke detectors so she can at least go to nap. And I have no smoke detector on my main level. I have looked.
They're all upstairs.
And I'm like, why? Like, why would you not have this?
If there's tiny wires, you're just gonna have to wait until it's all the way upstairs.
Yep.
Yeah. So now I'm in panic mode. And I call Tony because like she's a bear when she doesn't get her nap.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this girl's gotta get her nap in. Like, I need to find a battery for this now. Like, we have no 9 volts. Every other battery in the world I have. A 9-volt battery doesn't exist in my house. So Tony's like, there should be one on the main level. I'm there. There's not. I don't know who built this house. Like, this is terrible. And he's like, go in the basement. There's probably one in the basement. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, there is by the bar. So I'm like climbing up on our bar to like get this battery. And then I take that one out and then I can't get it into the one upstairs. And Lulu's just like, what's happening? Like, it's just, I'm trying to nap in peace. Damn it. Finally, I get it in and it's like quiet in the house. And I go in a room and I was like, okay. Everything's okay now. It's not going to be beeping anymore. She looks at me with that same look she gave me when I knocked down her magnetized tower. And she goes, do better next time. Another one of my things that I say. It's like, I will. I promise.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. We'll talk to him for napping.
Yeah. So those are my mom moments. That one was lengthy, but
it was good.
That was good.
It's so funny. And it's just like, literally
just
these
like
mundane things that
being a mom
shouldn't be that big of a deal, but when you have add kids to the mix, it just
so is today or this week's been better though with Keen. At least he's been like sleeping in. I feel like for a good 2 weeks he would just wake up at 6 a.m. every day.
why
so early. That's brutal. Do you have one of those timers in his room that shows him when he can get up?
We do
Very
have
good.
the hatch baby.
Yep, that's what we have.
But yeah, I need to start doing that. But he doesn't nap. He just started getting out of his bed. He like literally, he's had like a big boy bed for almost a year now. And he just started like actually getting out of it. It's like,
Lulu still does not get out of her bed.
Rhea does. She's a crib and she crawls out and in of her from her crib. And so she's so independent that I like before I even like see her in the morning, she's already like taken off her like because she's a nighttime diaper. She takes it off and goes pee in the potty and then comes back and her jammies are all zipped up and she'll just throw her diaper in random places. And I have been collecting them all randomly throughout the house and I found that every single one is dry. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure she's woken up dry every single day. So last night was her first night wearing underwear to bed, and she slept literally till 9 a.m., which is very rare. Completely dry,
That's
fine.
amazing.
And I don't know, it's just like, I didn't realize that, it's going to be my last time changing a diaper.
Yay!
Five
No,
diapers.
that's like the best
I
one to
know,
get rid of.
I know.
Change Kian's diaper.
Perfect.
And maybe one day your dogs will need diapers. So, and
Actually,
who knows?
it's not going to end here, Brittany.
Um,
Got more people.
I'm just thinking how it's
You
so.
changed my
I
diaper.
had all three of my kids were born within 4.5 years, and I was just about to be 4.5 when I had Rhea.
So you've always said
I had 4 months between like Judah being potty trained and having Rhea that I didn't have diapers in like 7 and almost 7.5 years.
They're
That's
so
crazy.
expensive.
They are. It's good. It's just like I just realized these like phases of your life and your kids' lives like just go so fast and like it feels like you're in it forever and then all of a sudden one day they wake up totally dry and independent and you're like, okay, I guess I'm here now. I don't have any babies anymore besides these dogs.
Yeah.
babies.
He's looking into my soul right now.
Look at this note. Not your
But
note.
yeah, what did she write?
I gave
Judah
Judah one and I gave Rhea one and I had the last one.
Of what?
She
A
asked
zebra
if she got a zebra cake. She was like staring into my soul, and I'm like, fine, yeah. We're working on spacing out our words, but I think besides not having an E on the end of both games, she
Very
spelled
good.
everything perfectly. Impressed, and she's alternating between capital
Just
and
have her do
lowercase.
this. Honestly, that's what I have my kindergartners do.
All right, well,
Yeah, we don't like to end things.
we never know how to wrap it up. That's why I have 3 kids. Thanks for being on the show, Marissa.
Yeah,
it was very fun.
Do you want to plug anything right now?
No.
All right. Well, you can be above average.
You can be below average.
Just
Don't be
average.
Bitches.
Bye.
Go out into the world and be a mom slut today.
Go be your mom slut self.
A mom slut just.
You're in your mom slut era.
Yeah. Hashtagging my mom slut era.
On that note, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. Not when this comes out.
We hope you had fun.
We hope you were a mom slut on Valentine's Day.
You better have done.
If you don't want to be, that's okay too.
It's okay if you don't always want to put out, okay? But Valentine's Day,
That's kind
take
of
one for
a-
the team.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's kind of a must.
All right. Bye.
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 Okay, bye. Okay, bye.
For real.
But I'll be a little mad if you cut out all my talk.
Ta-da!